Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Nuggets News. What a week it's been. I don't need to tell you that markets are down big and Ethereum 35% on the week. I'm going to talk about why this is, give you the news, the fundamentals and everything that's going on and what I see going forward as we head into the September 30 ETF decision. So time flies. It's only a year ago when China banned ICOs, and then another week or two after that announced that they were closing all Chinese exchanges, and people really thought crypto was dead. Now, China had the majority of trading volume at the time. You know, a lot of people loving ICOs, loving the projects coming out of China. And if you ask someone now how important is China to the overall crypto ecosystem, they'd probably say, well, not really. Maybe a few percent. We'd love to have them back, but it's not the be all and end all. People are emotional beings. They're fixated on the short term and, don't lose sight of the bigger picture, what we're trying to achieve long term through this global decentralized infrastructure and revolution, guys. This is a movement. So I'm still positive and I'm going to walk you through why. Now, 3 years ago, September 2015, we had a Silk Road Task Force agent himself being caught stealing Bitcoins. So there you go. And Russia changed its mind. So Russia had been talking about banning Bitcoin and passing legislation to do so, and they decided to actually backflip. There's something here, and I definitely think it's an interesting back and forward between these countries that want anti-US dollar assets, gold, silver, maybe Bitcoin, but they also want control over their own currency. So the dynamic between the US, China, Russia, and how this plays out, it's so exciting. I love all that macro news, and I know you guys enjoy that too. And I think that the macro is going to be the biggest determining factor on why Bitcoin is going to succeed in the next couple of years. Now, this week, I think this was a fantastic listen. Elon Musk is an interesting character. I love Joe Rogan. You've got to take everything with a grain of salt, guys. But geez, people were up in a stink because he had, one little puff. I'm not even sure if he actually smoked, a little bit of weed on the Joe Rogan show. Now, we all know that Steve Jobs was a fantastic guy. Just look what he did with Apple. Created the world's first $1 trillion company, and he used to talk about hallucinogens and the experience you get, and people like Gary Vee recommending that everyone should try this, these mind-altering substances at least once. And yet Wall Street gets their knickers in a knot because Elon smokes a little bit of weed. So it's funny to see people are so close-minded. I know it's not you guys. A lot of you are very open-minded and each to their own. And as a pharmacist, it's certainly frustrating for me to see that, I put my chemistry hat on and things that are grown in nature or natural substances we're not allowed to put into our own body. And I know you guys enjoy it when I explore that, and I continue to report the important stories and cover that in the future for you. Just quickly, this is another story that came out during the week. So we know there's an opioid epidemic in the US. The number of deaths going exponential here. We've seen some really toxic synthetic opiates in the way of fentanyl come out, even more potent than oxycodone. But the billionaire that created Oxycontin from Perd Pharmaceuticals has now patented a new drug for opioid treatment. So this is very frustrating. This goes full circle. They push this drug out there. There's a crazy percentage of people that are now addicted or abusing it. There's not the help centers that they need to have out there, and yet they roll out a new patent for a drug that, like so many medical treatments, it doesn't get you better. It's just that band-aid fix to sort of numb your cravings in the short term, but you have to take it for the rest of your life. And it does have side effects, but now they're making money on the people that are taking this or the people that get addicted, and they're making money on treating those people. So pretty frustrating that this sort of thing is allowed to happen, and these are the richest people in the world making money on both sides of that story. So just something that I wanted to bring to your attention. And again, I'll talk about that more in the future. So Combank and ANZ followed suit after Westpac raised interest rates in Australia. So in Australia, our central bank's not raising rates, but the banks are raising rates. So they're set to rake in nearly $1 billion more. And who's it come from? Well, it comes from, the general population, the struggling families. So why do they need this? Are they under stress? What's going on? Well, no. If you follow the news, they're making record profits. So who is wanting this? Who's asking for this? Is it the shareholders or is it everyday Australians? Why are banks raising rates? This huge royal commission, but all we're seeing really is these slap on the wrist fines. So the fine that Westpac got was equivalent to $8 of the average person working an average job. So if a speeding ticket or drinking in public, or even worse, some of the crimes that these big banks have committed, if you or I knew that the worst thing was an $8 fine, it's not going to change our behavior. And who even pays the price? It's the shareholders. No executives go to jail. Nothing really changes. So frustrating to see. And I always add that Bitcoin hashtag, guys, because this is what we're fighting for, okay? A new financial system where we're in control of our money. Bail-ins in Australia now well and truly beyond any doubt mean that when you put money in a bank, it's no longer yours, okay? The bank keeps a fraction of that money and it belongs to them. With Bitcoin, you control your own wealth. Enough of my rant there. Next up, one that I've been really bullish on, FunFair. They've got their first gaming license. They're on target to meet their goals of a Q3 launch. Now, if you had a look at the chart of FunFair, we'll take a sneak peek later, but you would not say that everything's going well. They're meeting all their goals. They're on target to launch, in the coming weeks. Who would have thought, guys? But this is what I look for, where fundamentals diverge from technicals. That presents opportunity for those that have done their research, and I'm going to talk about that more when we get to the charts later. SpankChain, I know if you just looked at the name of this one and, SpankChain, you can stake it and generate a stable coin called Booty, you'd shrug your eyebrows. But the fact is, these guys have really surprised me in terms of what they've done. So FunFair are one of the leading projects in terms of technology and creating second layer solutions. You've heard of Lightning Network and state channels. With FunFair, they've actually created those and what they've called fate channels. So you can do thousands of clicks and it's not at the mercy of a blockchain or transaction rates, or you're not paying gas fees. And now it's the same for SpankChain. So they've completed this as well. It's exciting to see. I'll let you read this announcement, but these projects, forget the name, forget the industry, they're disrupting, they're giving the power back to the individual, cutting out the middleman, and now they're making huge inroads with their technology in terms of, as I said, not having to pay gas and instant feeless transactions through these second layer solutions. And people forget that Ethereum and projects building on this, 250,000 devs, are doing all this. They are leading the building of Web 3.0, while others are claiming to do so in their white paper. Bitcoin Cash stress test. So this is what it is, guys. They hard fork to 8 megabytes and then again to 32. The majority of those blocks are very empty and rarely get above 1 megabyte in size. But the fact is that now they've built that 32 lane highway, you can think of it as, well, it can handle that traffic if it goes there. So yes, that stress test experienced over 2 million transactions there on the 1st of September. Congrats to that community. They've shown what it's capable of. But I guess, if you knew the fundamentals and you knew they had 32 megabyte blocks, you probably knew that this was already possible. But, it doesn't mean that everyone's just going to switch over, and that the fact that they've done that makes it, the go-to option now. Plenty of people are happy with other coins, or, using the coin they've got for different purposes, privacy, store of value. But again, guys, I try to give unbiased information. So the fact is, this has happened and they've shown that this is what's possible by just increasing the block size. But there's so many sides to this argument. As I've said, I would love to have Roger Vera on the channel to chat and debate Andreas and really talk about both sides of scaling and the trade-offs and the story. So if anyone can hook that up from the Bitcoin Cash community, let me know. Into the Bitcoin news now. So Winklevoss brothers win a patent for crypto key storage. Now, I've spoken so many times about how important that custodianship is, and we need that for ETFs and for mass adoption in the future. And there's been a lot of talk about banks being the custodians. Now, why you would want to let a bank control your private keys is beyond me. So having these other options outside of the banking system, this is sure it's centralized. You and I know how to store and control our own private keys, but for those people that just want to give it to someone else, I'd maybe rather the people that have been in the crypto space for a few years than the big banks getting into it. So a step in the right direction, I guess. Coinbase even considering an ETF with the help of BlackRock. Now, there's been a bit of talk about all the ETFs getting rejected because the people putting the proposals forward aren't in the club, so to speak. Now, BlackRock are definitely in the club. They create plenty of huge ETFs. Coinbase are definitely in the club in terms of crypto and early adopters and Brian Armstrong and what he's doing and trying to, work with the regulation and get all the right licenses. So if those two come together, I think they've got as good a hope as Vanguard to get the ETF approved, and as just about anyone in this space. So another positive article that maybe fell on deaf ears this week. Brian Armstrong, he's really focused on being the company that brings crypto to everyone. So he doesn't just want it in the US where they were getting 100,000 users a day last year. He really wants, that next billion people coming from all over the globe in those developing countries. With the Coinbase Wallet app now, it's been rebranded from Toshi, guys. That's just going to be click of a button to send crypto to someone's name or their mobile phone number, to buy your movie tickets. That's all going to be seamlessly integrated, within the next few months or years. So this isn't 5 years away, this tech, guys. And I think on weeks like this, when it's a bit of a bloodbath, we forget when all the headlines are terrible that only a few months away, it is very easy for things to change dramatically and everyone going, oh, geez, I wish I hadn't have, sold when I thought crypto, was dead or going down. Coinbase expanding. I definitely think Europe is going to be responsible in part for the next bull run. So we've seen speculation in places like Australia and huge users, as I just said last year in the bull run, come from America. But I really don't think that Europe really got on board. And we're starting to see price premiums in, Greece, Venezuela, Turkey, Cyprus in the past. One by one, those countries are going to continue to have debt issues, and the European Union trying to hold them all together as one, kick the can down the road. So I think there's a big wave of people to wake up and realize the benefit of crypto in the UK, and then we head to other countries like this. So Iran came out and said that crypto mining's A-OK, and we're already seeing a huge premium. So again, is it the start of some currency issues for that country? The fact that it's trading on such a huge premium, that means that in the coming weeks, people are going to start making every effort to create that black market, and eventually that premium will equal out somewhat. But how many times have you heard me say it, guys? I don't care about an ETF. I don't care about what traders are doing or telling me. I care about one by one these countries where their fiat money system, goes to shit, to be honest, and these people that are buying food for their families or protecting their life savings by having Bitcoin and an app on a smartphone, that's changing their lives. So don't forget that, and people are happy to pay. Forget the Korean premium. Look at that, $24,000 for a Bitcoin currently in Iran on local Bitcoins. This was probably the big driver of the negativity this week. Goldman Sachs, coming out and saying, we're not really that focused on a crypto trading desk anymore. And this reminds me almost exactly last year we saw Jamie Dimon come out and just say, Bitcoin's dead, it's a Ponzi, it's fake. And then a few weeks later we find out that, subsidiaries of JP Morgan are investing for their clients and getting interested and so on. And here we are, I think it was 48 hours afterwards, they coming out and saying, well, hold on, this is actually fake news. Their CFO comes out and says, yeah, we are working on it. But I think the wording, taking out of context, it wasn't a priority, something like that, guys. Look at how irrational, emotional these markets are when stuff like this can really push price around. Obviously not the only thing, but definitely a big factor. Shapeshift coming out and saying introducing membership program. Now, I love Eric Voorhees. He's done so much for the space over the years, but he always said that Shapeshift was the way to anonymously change crypto. He said that they were planning on a membership program and that Fox token with loyalty rewards points. That's fine, but the fact that in the future you'll have to KYC and takes out that, anonymity, that's very frustrating for a lot of people. And effectively, Shapeshift have just become another exchange. If I want to swap my Bitcoin for a privacy coin or another coin anonymously, Shapeshift was the place basically to go to. But now, if you have to KYC, well, why wouldn't you just swap a coin on an exchange that's probably more liquid, where you can set bids and so on? So disappointing. There's other services out there I might talk about that do the same thing in the future. Bitcoin transaction value, annual transaction value surpassing PayPal. So again, this is huge news. You won't see this on headlines on mainstream media. Who would have thought, a few years ago when little old Bitcoin was out there trying to change the world, that it would surpass PayPal. So next targets in sight, MasterCard, Visa, and Union Pay. A long way to go. We will need more scaling solutions, whether that's batching. We've already seen SegWit make a real difference, or it's some sort of block increase in the future. That remains to be seen. But the fact is that we're already going past PayPal is fantastic news. The contrarian indicator here, when CNBC says to buy, it was probably time to sell. And I think this is tracking at over 95% win rate if you did the opposite of what they did. So again, tongue in cheek there, guys. This is pretty funny to see them continue to make a mockery of themselves. Now, a couple of days ago, I took another screenshot, and there was a couple of positive search terms here. But as of today, look how bad this sentiment is. And you guys know I harp on about sentiment is what ultimately determines it. And whether people are positive from their charts or the news, I think it all comes down to sentiment. And I've got a big focus in our premium service on trading psychology. Now, have a look at this. Not one positive term until the last one here is crypto of the future. So that's what the herd is thinking. And again, you've got to position yourself on the other side of that, guys. Be patient, have your plan. Don't be at the mercy of what's going on. Are you Googling, is crypto dead, and then acting on something that you've read on the internet? Okay, you've got to be better than that. And obviously that's our focus with education. Check this video out, guys. The correlation, I go into detail about why things track Bitcoin, the importance of pairs on exchanges, particularly into Ethereum and what's going on at the moment, as well as just about every altcoin. So make sure you check out that video I did this week if you haven't already. Finally, our new website's ready. Check that out. We get so many questions about, we've done 300 videos. They're finally all sorted into playlists. We can check all those out. And what's involved in your premium service. Plenty of detail there, guys. There's a video as well. There's testimonials from members. We're very proud that throughout a pretty bad market where lots of trading groups have lost 70 or 80% of their members, we've basically maintained our membership at around the 1,500 mark. And these prices are in Aussie dollars. So if you guys in the US and Europe, you're talking 40, 30, US dollars or pounds a month, which we believe is very reasonable compared to some of these newsletters that are charging you, hundreds or $1,000 a month. This group runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, chatting crypto. We've got traders in there, and I know you guys have really enjoyed that and continue to tell me that it is fantastic value, so check that out. All right, let's get into the charts, the price action. Now, forgetting everything else just for a second here, throughout these huge run-ups and pullbacks over the past 6 years, we've generally tested these spikes where the run-up basically sort of began from. So this is 166 million as the total market cap. We're getting pretty close now, 190. So that's sort of 10 to 15% within the bottom. And that generally fits with what I'm thinking as well. What a lot of traders are calling for, we might have one more leg down, that final flush. And this is altcoins, so excluding Bitcoin. Again, where did this all sort of start? Around the 90 billion market cap there, and we had really strong support at around the 70 billions there, and we're basically there now. So as of today, we've dropped down to 84 billion. Again, within sort of 10%, 15% of that bottom. So it's funny when all this, forget all the lines everywhere, guys. I've taken just about everything off my chart, and this is almost that perfect Wall Street cheat sheet that you've seen so many times, more so for alts where we've already had this final leg down. But, last week Bitcoin was trading at around 74.50 at time of recording, and it's just been another big red week. This equilibrium pattern continues to tighten, but I think chances are now that we're really looking for that one more leg down. Now, whether or not that's a bounce first. Now, I'll put all my indicators back on because I just wanted to show you plain and simple what a lot of people are looking at, and that final, that last peak before the huge run up is around the $5,000 mark, and I don't think we get a weekly close below that. I think the traders come in and get pretty aggressive once we're below there. So yeah, there's a lot of mess on the charts, guys. Don't take too much notice of that. I don't, but last week we were drawing this resistance on the chart, and we had the moving averages, the downtrend, and sure enough we kissed it perfectly, and I wasn't expecting a huge rejection from there. Where are we at now with our cycle bracket? So the bottom here is on the 17th of September, so about a week away. I don't think we can keep going down at this rate. Look at the the weekly, the daily, everything's getting pretty beat up, and the fact that we've got these 6,000 and 5,700 that we've tested so many times, I don't think we can go straight there. We'd just be too oversold. So I think we have to have some sort of bounce this week. And finally, this is the last trend line that not a lot of people are looking at. If you really zoom out here, guys, this has a couple of touch points on the really long-term uptrend. So this all kind of fits in with that sort of scenario where I think we're going to see some sort of support, and I don't think we get a weekly close below 5,000. Now, it's great to see Bitcoin holding up. I think Bitcoin has now become my biggest holding and overtaken Ethereum because Ethereum has performed so poorly. Now, have a look again. Ethereum even weaker on the daily RSI. I think it's even more beat up on the 4-hour here. Almost into the single digits. We just haven't seen this. Now, there's fear about ICOs dumping their ETH, fear that there'll never be ICOs fundraising in ETH again. Vitalik coming out and saying there's no 1000x gains anymore in crypto. Well, that's a pretty sensible statement, I think. If you think Bitcoin's doing 1000x or alts from here, that's $6 million Bitcoin. Now, can a few of the very best projects that have sold off extremely hard and they're in the single $1 million market caps turn into single $1 billion market caps? Yeah, maybe over the next few years. So I think it's possible, but the more beat up we get, the more valuable that any money, capital that you've had on the sidelines becomes. So if you've been really patient, Ethereum was trading at $300 last week. If you've been patient, waiting for the charts to guide you, waiting for sentiment to guide you. Now, we haven't had that hatred towards the market yet, so it's been painful. It's been a grind lower, but we haven't seen hate towards Bitcoin or hate towards Ethereum and altcoins. That real blood in the streets. I can't believe I ever got into this. I'm never going to touch this ever again. And when we get that point, that's when it will be time to buy. Now, I spoke to my members this week about BitMEX because there's very few times I use BitMEX and I want that really big leverage. But if we continue to sell off, violently, and some of these altcoins, some of my favorites, ones that I'm looking to buy, Cardano, things like that, if they continue to go lower, whether you're trading the US dollar pair or the Bitcoin pair, they're now down 90% from their highs. And that's where that capital, if you layer your orders, when people are getting liquidated and absolutely throwing in the towel, okay, that is when fortunes are made. Okay, if you can be in the game and not get liquidated, let's say Cardano gets down to 5 cents or whatever it may be on BitMEX against the Bitcoin pair. If you're getting just nice orders, laddered in there, be the person on the other side of the trade, because markets can be completely irrational in the short term, and correlations that shouldn't be there are there. As I said, one of the favorites that I've spoken about a lot, FunFair now, just about down to 1 cent. As I said before, mainnet launch just around the corner. Have a look at this falling off a cliff from 25 cents to 1 cent. Now, if this gets below 1 cent, yes, I'm going to buy more. I've got capital. I'm being patient. I'm only going to use that if we get that one more leg lower and we see hatred towards crypto, blood in the streets, people being liquidated, and that price being forced lower far beyond where it should rationally be because people's hands are being forced. So that's what good traders do. That's what patient traders do. We wait for those higher lows to form on the smaller time frames, and then we work our way out, because at the moment the trend is still down. I know that you guys that are traders have been making a lot of money to the downside. That's fantastic to see, but I really think the market has forgotten about a backed product just around the corner. Whether or not we get that ETF, and I think it's likely to be delayed in September, don't forget that we're most likely going to get backed, and don't forget that Bitcoin is not at the mercy of Wall Street, okay? Bitcoin is going to succeed from global adoption and use case, and saving those people's lives, well-being, and financial position in all those developing countries. So don't forget all that, guys. Take some time to get away from the screen. I went up to my dad's house this weekend and found another Nintendo 64. I took one to college. I didn't realize I had another one, and what better than finding a Mario Kart and GoldenEye there. And as usual, you guys have played 64 and know that joystick's pretty beat up. I might have to try and find some new ones online somewhere. So take it easy, guys. I think we're so close, within 10 or 15%. Respect that capital if you've still got it there, and be patient, because if you can be that person that gets in when everyone else is being forced to sell or liquidate, that's when life-changing wealth can be created. So thanks for tuning in, guys. Cheers.